Jake Dennis. He's already the champion as round 33 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship is go, and Rosenqvist is away like a stunned rat right through the middle of the grid, and he takes the lead on the way down towards turn 1, and a great start as well by Alexander Albon. Jake Dennis goes third. He's on the outside of Giovinazzi as they round turn 1 for the first time, but rocket ship Rosenqvist leads the way. Albon is second, Alessio Lorandi out wide as the cars head up towards turn 2. Dennis defending from Giovinazzi, and Rosenqvist is in the box seat, isn't he? But a great getaway by Albon, fifth on the grid. He runs second as the cars work their way now round turn 2 for the first time.
Well, pleasingly, all the cars have got away well, perhaps with the exception of our pole sitter, who clearly did not get away well and is back down there in P3, and already charges and challenges going on around the Parabolica.
3 wide in the pack, here they come. Everybody looking for a bit of road, everybody looking for a bit of traction as they work their way down towards the Spitzkehrer. But significantly, it's cars on slicks making the moves at the moment. Jake Dennis going backwards in the pack as they tiptoe their way round the Spitzkehrer. The gamble, I think, about wets is not working, because even on this opening lap of the race, where it is still greasy, those on the slicks are working well. Alexander Sims round the outside of Giovinazzi, he goes third. Dennis is fifth, but he makes a move on the inside for fourth place. He does it. He gets back ahead of Giovinazzi, and there is contact in the pack. It's a Prema car that has gone around. I think that might have been Gunter, but we'll check in a moment as the leaders work their way towards us, with Rosenqvist ahead of Albon. Third is Sims, in fourth is Dennis, fifth is Giovinazzi. There's another spin, look in the background. Ryan Tvita has gone around Alessio Lorandi. Now he is on wets and he's making progress.
Yes, that's very interesting to see.
Yellow's out on track because of Tvita's turnaround, but through the stadium they come for the first time then.
The real fascination for me is Alexander Albon.
Now let's have a look at earlier incidents. This is in the Mercedes arena. This is Jake Dennis up on the inside, and he makes the move against Giovinazzi. And it was Lance Stroll, in fairness, hooking a wheel up onto the curb, and then he got into the back of Max Gunter, clipped him, knocked him around. Charles Leclerc takes evasive action, and Gunter rejoins. End of lap 1, Rosenqvist leading by 8/10 from Albon, who is right up behind him as they go through turn 2. Sims is third, not scoring points. Jake Dennis fourth. Charles Leclerc 12th. Job done for Jake Dennis as long as he stays on the road now.
Yes. And look at the cars, just how twitchy some of them are through that section of the circuit there. As
Tvita's got suspension damage.
Yes.
Look, it's left front towing in. So that's the end of it, I think, for Ryan Tvita. Disappointing year, really. He's stepped up from Formula Renault NEC, but he's found it quite a big jump, I think, into F3. Right, Rosenqvist versus Albon. Now, we could have another new winner here if the British driver runs under a Thai licence. Alex Albon could do something about the Super Swede up front. Sims runs third, and Albon quicker than Rosenqvist in the first sector of the lap. He's taken 3/10 out of him, and Alexander Sims goes off the road. Alessio Lorandi there, number 8, also striving to get up the order with his Van Amersfoort car. There he is, keeping at bay Marcus Pommer. Now we know that Pommer is on wets, but even though they are making a bit of progress, look, they're having to go so early for the wet part of the road. Those tyres are going to overheat before much longer.
And we're right in the early stages of this race, and this is exactly what we said right at the start of the programme, isn't it? That, you know, to try and keep those tyres in their operating temperature is just never ever going to happen. They're going to be searching out for the wetter parts of the circuit as we watch our race leader Felix Rosenqvist being chased all the way by Alexander Albon. Then it's Sims in P3. The gap between Rosenqvist and Albon just 8/10, or it's down to 5/10 now as a lot of cars pick up just a bit of gravel on the exit of that turn onto the start-finish straight.
But look, you can see who's on wets because they're going for the tyre cooling line, heading over the timing line. The best lap of the race had been done by Alexander Albon as he hunts down Felix Rosenqvist. Now, where's the best of those on the wets? It is Jake Dennis. He has done a 46.0. That's 8/10 slower than the race leader. That shows you the difference in pace. And where is he? He's falling back into the clutches of Giovinazzi, who is on slicks. Race leaders up towards the Spitzkehrer once again. Half a second between them. Now Albon should be able to get a tow here. He moves to the outside line. You know the score probably if you watched racing here before. Wide in, tight out. Albon will try and get the undercut, but Rosenqvist prevents him from doing so. And they blast out of the corner now in ever-brightening conditions down towards turn 7. And Jake Dennis here is coming under attack from Giovinazzi, but behind in 6th, having his best showing of the year, Alessio Lorandi, also on wet tyres.
Yes, which is proving the exception to the rule, perhaps, with Lorandi, isn't it?
Pommer is quick, he's on wets as well. Alexander Sims on slicks in strife there, running up a little bit wide onto the curb, coming out of turn 7 and 8. And also wide in the background, I think, was Lance Stroll in 10th spot. You just caught a glimpse of. But Alex Albon is on an absolute mission. The signature team has not had a win this year. Albon has not had a win in Formula 3. And all the incidents on the opening lap have just been deemed racing incidents by the officials. They've got enough to worry about without investigating people sliding off on the first greasy lap of the race. But Albon is on an absolute mission. And
for Felix Rosenqvist, who of course has already sealed the championship by some measure, for Alexander Albon, the big incentive is to take that win, both for the team and of course for himself, to finish the season on an absolute high.
Absolutely right, and he's been knocking on the door of so doing. He's Volkswagen powered, he's chasing the Mercedes engine Prema car in the hands of Rosenqvist. Same chassis, Dallara chassis for both. Yesterday Albon crashed out at that corner they've just exited, turn 1. He has done the fastest lap of the race again. He's brought the gap down to half a second as they work their way up towards turn 2. Giovinazzi is ahead of Dennis now. He did that on the approach to turn 1. Dennis is still the best of those on the wet, but that last lap was a 44.5. Albon's best is a 42.8.
That's a huge margin, isn't it? You could just see how Lorandi was trying to find the cooler parts of the circuit. Oh, as Albon does have a go at Rosenqvist again at the hairpin, but Rosenqvist knows the circuit inside out and he knows where to put the car to prevent that charge from Albon.
He does indeed. Jake Dennis coming under attack shortly from Alessio Lorandi. A moment ago you saw Mikkel Jensen in the orange car there, just going under the Hankook gantry, going ahead of Marcus Pommer, but Pommer goes back through on the run down towards turn 7. Pommer on wets, Jensen is on slicks. Albon still on a mission. He is right there on the tail of Rosenqvist, and fair play because he sat so close to him for 2 laps now in the dirty air that makes your own car go slower. So imagine how much pace there is in Albon if he were to get past.
But get past is what he needs to do, and thus far Felix Rosenqvist has denied him that. Alexander Sims is running in P3, and then we can see Giovinazzi, and now that Giovinazzi has got past Dennis, look how he's gapped him.
Absolutely, he's checked out, hasn't he? And Giovinazzi is also starting to chip away within the first sector. This is a replay of how the move came. Jake Dennis goes to the inside of the pit straight where it is damp rather than wet to try and cool the tyres. And Giovinazzi just breezes past, doesn't he? Easy move into turn 1. And there Pietro Fittipaldi, number 12, in a battle with Nicolas Pola. And there is contact. And a punctured tyre and broken suspension for Fittipaldi. Pola spins. And have they been able to leave the scene of the crime? No. Oh dear. That could be a safety car to get that out of the way.
For sure. Yes.
Which will bunch people up. Yep, safety car deployed. So it'll bunch people up, and that's going to mean the people on wets are going to be even easier prey when the race rejoins, because they haven't even got a gap anymore.
Looking at the championship, I'm just looking now. So Jake Dennis is going to be bunched up in P5. Where is Leclerc going to be? P12. So... yeah. You know, Dennis is still in the box seat, isn't he? But he's got to do the remainder of the race. But so too is Leclerc,
because he's on wets as well. But he's got to hope that Leclerc's tyres are behaving in the same way that his are.
Yes.
So the safety car is on track, and we are on lap number 5. Well, the safety car is on track now. In fact, yes, it has just been deployed, but the boards and the messages were there early because they had to get the drivers slowed down before the incident zone. So there is Pietro Fittipaldi's car that will be negotiated. Some being... Oh, look at that, the background. That's Leclerc and Ferrucci and Santino Ferrucci. I mean, they're side by side through a yellow flag zone. That, I would think the race director would do something about. And there, Dorian Boccolacci goes off. Drivers not respecting the flags at all. Having said that, I can't see a safety car board there. I can only see a way... Oh, no, there is a board, isn't there? The other marshal's got the board
he's holding
just in front. Apologies. But some drivers completely ignorant of what the flags mean. And there, another example. Off the road goes Peter Lee at the back of the pack.
Well,
some of that driving, I'm afraid, is inexcusable. But
how that car did not get collected is beyond me.
Yeah. The race director, I think, will have a look at that. He'll have made a note of the transgressors. The incident between Pola and Fittipaldi is under investigation. And this is up at the Spitzkehrer. Yellow flags look being waved. This is safety car period. So Sergio Sette Camara, Charles Leclerc, and now under the safety car we've got a whole raft of people diving down the pit lane. Just to finish off this replay, we'll come back to the pit stoppers in a moment. Now that is Ferrucci going ahead of Leclerc, and the yellow flags are being waved. Jake Dennis is one of those in the pits, so also in is Lance Stroll.
And the Dennis stop is not going well. They've got a problem with the front, look. Well, at last they get it done, and Dennis is on his way out, but there was a big queue there. It was Lance Stroll that was being denied, wasn't it?
Yeah, they had to stack him. Look, Gustavo Menezes is in, and there, Marcus Pommer being delayed by Nicholas Pola, who is getting in the way. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. What this does prove is how many other people went onto wets that we hadn't been able to identify on the grid. Dorian Boccolacci we had identified, he is in. Julio Moreno, we identified. Matt Solomon, he's into the pits as well. Anybody else? Pola, we talked about. Right now, they've got to try and get onto the back of the pack. So Charles Leclerc has stayed out. He has stayed out. Replay of the start. Look at Rosenqvist.
That was a blister, wasn't it?
Absolutely. He's away like a robber's dog there, through the middle, and Albon goes with him. He breathes in and charges through. Ripper getaway by Rosenqvist, but actually the best in terms of going from 5th to 2nd was by Albon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely on fire. So we are behind the safety car, and that has been a godsend for some of the drivers to change tyres. Nicholas Pola under investigation for blocking in the pit lane. Now, we saw him getting in the way of Marcus Pommer. Pola for the Double R Racing team. I'm not actually sure he could go anywhere.
No, to be fair, there was a car ahead of him.
Yeah, but that's all part of how you have to manage the pit lane. So the officials will have a look. That was Stroll clipping the back of Gunter, teammate to teammate. It doesn't always go down very well.
Just think Gunter was tapped into that by someone else on the inside of Stroll. I think he was already turning.
Was he? Right. And I thought Leclerc was in that as well. So
no, maybe.
He was in
maybe.
the midst. That was Twitter turning himself around.
And then having a donut.
And around, yeah. And did he get clipped? Because we know the suspension was damaged. Was that before or after? I think it was the cause of it, wasn't it? Right, we've got Alessio Lorandi coming in now, and that means that he is in for slicks.
Well, Leclerc is staying out. Staying out.
And so is Ferrucci, and so is Arjun Maini, and they're right up against the pit wall.
Now, there is one of the official Deutsche Post runners, and normally what they're delivering, of course, is...
bad news.
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
Marvin Dienst is in as well, who is on wets. But yes, the bad news is normally a penalty. It is to say you are either being investigated or you have been, and this is the punishment you're going to take. Right, where after all of that did Jake Dennis come back out is the question. Well, you can see him in the back of the shot. He's in traffic, and so he came over the timing line 22nd, but we've got 2 cars ahead of him that will have made a stop, so 20th for Jake Dennis. Now, things start to change, don't they? Because he's out of the points. Charles Leclerc 7th, so Leclerc gets 369.5. Okay? Jake Dennis is on 369. So unless he can get himself into the points, and he should do, or at least Leclerc should drop out of the points. But if things were to stay as they are, Leclerc would get 3rd by half a point.
But you cannot, I'm sure, imagine that Leclerc is going to be able to stay where he is on those wet weather tyres. Everyone else has changed. Under investigation for leaving the pit lane under the red lights is Alessio Lorandi.
Right, now he was the most recent stopper, and he had got himself into that leading group by using wet tyres, but instead of being allowed out at the back of the train, he has gone out of position, in other words. So he's gone under a red light and will be where he should not be in the order. Safety car is still out on track, but in this lap. So we're going to go racing this time. Some are still on the wets.
Well, fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Well, there's more to come, as there, under the safety car, running off the road, Santino Ferrucci. He's on wets, I think we'd identified, hadn't we, from earlier on, but had stayed out. So the cars working their way down towards the stadium once again. You can see how much brighter it's getting.
In Portimao, Felix Rosenqvist proved what an absolute star he was at safety car restarts. And of course he's going to have to do this, isn't he, with Alexander Albon right on his tail. Alexander Albon is going to really have to try and anticipate where Felix Rosenqvist is going to floor it.
Look, you've got drivers going off the track to find a wet part now. If the tyres are that bad, why have Ferrucci and Maini not come in and pitted and change the tyres? We go racing, but if people have got to drive off the track to try and keep the tyres cool, they haven't got a chance of getting to the end without the tyres overheating completely.
Which is the point I'm making with regards to Leclerc and Dennis. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, is it?
Absolutely not. We go racing. Let's keep an eye to how the championship third place battle is going to stack out as much as the race, because at the end of lap 7, Rosenqvist is 7/10 up on Albon as they dive over the timing line. Through turn 1 they go. Charles Leclerc with work to do to try and get himself back up the order here. But Rosenqvist, Albon, Sims is the order. Santino Ferrucci there on wets as they work their way through turn 1. And where is Jake Dennis in all of this? What progress can he make? Callum Eilert getting himself right onto the back of George Russell. In fact, Russell goes ahead of him, apologies. So George Russell picks up 10th place there, the two Carlin drivers. But Eilert has got the run now by being in the tow briefly through the parabolica. George Russell going for the wetter part of the circuit. He's on wets as well, remember, from the start of the race, and didn't pit, so he could be easy prey here as they work their way through the Spitzkehrer once again. But no, Eilert doesn't get past him. Arjumani runs wide. He's about to get mugged as they're almost 3 abreast. Eilert does go past Russell on the exit of the corner now. Jake Dennis up the inside as well there, getting himself past Alessio Lorandi. So you see how Lorandi gained on the ignoring of the red light, and there's a car parking just at the top of the screen there, which looked like a Prema car to me. Arjumani gets run out wide.
Lorandi's going to get a drive-through penalty as we see cars off at the back, and one of those is one of the Artline cars, I think.
Could be right. That's Julio Moreno, the Ecuadorian. Right, who was he with on track? He was around the sort of Nicolas Polar, Dorian Boccalacci area, but with a flat tyre. Harold Schlegelmilch gets back on track. So that was the Art Tech that you'd identified, the Russian chassis. He's back on track, and that is George Russell, by the look of it, who is in the gravel. So George Russell out of the race.
Now, George is on slicks there, so had he pitted, or had we miscalculated the factors?
No, he'd not stopped, I'm afraid, so wrong to identify that on the grid. Apologies. Tanat Satiran Terakul is off as well, and the safety car is being deployed for the second time. Safety car on track for the second time. Broken suspension for Satiran Terakul. And Lorandi is serving his drive-through. Now, by trying to peer at people on the grid, I'm just questioning myself about Charles Leclerc. Need to have another look at his car if we can. And oh dear, the safety car has not been able to get out in time to pick up the race leader. So everybody being waved through now so that it will pick up the race leader on the next lap. Right, so George Russell's season is at an end. We've got the safety car out for the second time. I never quite got to use the line, did I? But they all bunched up under the safety car and so we've had another safety car, because of people being as one in the pack. Harold Schlegelmilch will limp to the pit lane in the Art Tech. So you can see the punctured tyre there, a legacy of the incident he had with Julio Moreno. And does this show us? It does.
Well, from that shot, he was the innocent party in that, I would have said.
Yeah, the tie driver getting into a knot. As up the inside here, George Russell's demise becomes apparent. Matt Rao involved with him. Contact coming into the stadium, in fact. So that's where George Russell ended up, a long way off the road. But again, if you've got marshals working, it's got to now be a double-waved yellow, and that means it's got to be a safety car. And who is that? That's Moreno spinning and able to rejoin. Doesn't involve anybody else in that. Lance Stroll locks up at turn 2. And he's got a punctured tyre as well. Look, flat left rear for Lance Stroll. So contact with somebody's wing early on in the race, potentially, has done for Lance Stroll.
Well, Leclerc is going for the wet part of the circuit.
He's got to be on wets, hasn't he? He's got to be on wets. But I'm still fascinated that he's staying out. I mean, here's another golden opportunity to come in. But maybe now, because he's ahead of Jake Dennis, he's thinking, well, I can't afford to give up the place. You know, they don't know how many more safety car periods they may be. If he's ahead, it's a difficult one to call, but certainly slick tyres has proved to be the correct choice. We can see that by the pace and also by the number of people that have had to make pit stops. Santino Ferrucci has now come in, Arjumani has now come in. So there's really only Leclerc, as far as we can work out, that has stayed out on the wet rubber.
Well, I think you're right. I think he thinks now, given his track position and the fact that he would inevitably give up that place to Jake Dennis, wouldn't he? By coming in now, he's just feeling that, you know, not knowing what to expect in the remainder of the race, his best gamble is to stay out. Yeah,
but I reckon Dennis will get to him anyway in the end.
I think you might be right.
Because of the speed he's got. There is Leclerc, and the Van Amersfoort car just earning his way through. Safety car boards stay out. It's in this time, though, the safety car. So we will see whether it's going to be a clear run to the end. We are on lap 10, so we'll go racing to start lap 11, and we've got 15 3/4 minutes to go. So it's going to be, I suspect, maybe a lap off the distance. It'll be time, ultimately, rather than number of laps. So here's one we prepared earlier. Felix Rosenqvist and his restart process, Dave.
Which is very good, but Albon is absolutely sticking with him like glue. But where Rosenqvist has the advantages, he knows when he's going to floor that car, and Albon is trying desperately to keep with him there. And in fairness to Alexander Albon, he anticipated that really better than last time around, so he's kept closer to Felix Rosenqvist, but Rosenqvist still with the advantage. Alexander Sims going with them as well. So Rosenqvist once again restarts this race, and Alexander Albon chasing for all his worth. Alexander Sims P3, and Rosenqvist is beginning to be able to gap Albon already. Albon will come good.
Leclerc goes wide, goes sideways. Big slide by Andy Chang behind him. Chang is in 9th place here, having benefited a little bit by staying on track, but also other people pulling out and pitting ahead of him. But Leclerc now having to drive that car so hard. Jake Dennis goes round the outside of Rd11 there. That's another place gain, so Dennis will be 13th when he comes back into shot. There he is, the red, white and blue RSF car. Leclerc, you can see he's on wet tyres there just to confirm it. And up alongside him is the recovering Max Günther, so that's another place lost. That's enough now to give Dennis third in the championship. It was only by half a point that Leclerc had it, so he's now dropped back on points behind Jake Dennis. As off goes Andy Chang, just praised him. Now he's at the escape road. Islet's gone through on the inside of Leclerc as well. There's plenty more to come out of this race yet, as the leaders work their way back down towards the Mercedes tribune, with Giovinazzi looking at the inside of Alexander Sims. No can do. Callum Islet there looking at the inside of Max Günther, and he's sideways, and they both run wide. Islet slithers back onto the road. 1 up and 3 down for him, so he's lost places as a consequence of that. And Rosenqvist, this time around, is getting away a little bit from Albon, isn't he?
Yes, he is, and Albon is going to have to start thinking about defending from Alexander Sims pretty soon. In the meantime, the rest of the pack come through.
Now there's Michele Beretta, yeah, who is running just on the fringe of the top 10, but he's got the Max Günther Prema car up with him. Right, the leaders have gone through, and it's a whopper gap now, 1.3 seconds. Rosenqvist has done the fastest lap of the race. Playtime is over now. He means business, doesn't he? He's away and gone. Albon is 2nd, Sims is 3rd, Giovinazzi is 4th, Jensen is 5th, Leclerc 6th, Beretta 7th, 8th is Günther, 9th is Islet, 10th is Dennis as Leclerc goes around. Islet's past him, Günther is past him, Jake Dennis is past him. That, if there were any doubt at all, secures Jake Dennis 3rd in the championship if he stays on the road.
Well, that cements that, doesn't it? Matt Rao gets a drive-through penalty for that instant with George Russell.
Right, okay, yep, coming into the stadium. There is a sideways Islet as the replay shows Charles Leclerc absolutely on the ragged edge. He ran out wide, loses traction, back overtakes front, round he goes, and then everybody behind has to scatter. Michele Beretta goes by, but significantly so does Jake Dennis. There it is from another angle. Michele Beretta, by the way, has had a 15th as his best finish of the year, as now Albon is under attack for 2nd because Sims looks for a way by Giovinazzi at the inside of Sims, and through he goes. Alexander Sims ran wide there as he was busy battling with Albon, so he loses out. Antonio Giovinazzi up into 3rd place, but look at the gap that Felix Rosenqvist has pulled. He has spent the previous 2 races looking after the team's efforts. Now this is about Felix.
Absolutely. And there in replay, Alexander Sims and
Alex Albon. So that was Sims up to 2nd. Albon fought back.
Now, whilst all that is going on, news about Santino Ferrucci.
Overtaking under the safety car, reported to the stewards of the meeting. So Ferrucci, at the moment, in fairness, is 26th. It won't really affect the outcome of the race hugely, as you see the replay of Giovinazzi. Very opportunistic driving up the inside there to gain the place. But Ferrucci now has incurred the wrath of the officials, and Nabil Jeffrey is off the road. And we're on lap number 13, and that is coming into the stadium. It's where George Russell ended up.
Guess what?
Yep. Dear Mr. Safety Car Driver, please put down your newspaper, extinguish all cigarettes and prepare for takeoff, because it looks as though that's going to be deployed once again. Yellow flag will be out at that section of the circuit, but I fear the safety car is going to have to be used again to get that out of the way.
Lorandi has got past Menezes there.
Yeah. Lorandi, of course, serving 2 pit stops in the race. One the drive-through, one the tyre change. So the fact that he's still in the mix is remarkable. He's 12th, despite 2 stops. It's like a GT race. That's Dorian Boccolacci getting it sideways. He's doing a Leclerc, isn't he?
Yes.
As he loses it coming out of turn 1.
Safety car deployed.
No, you don't say.
Sorry.
Lords of mercy. Who'd have thought it? Boccolacci back in the right direction, carries on. He was 16th at the start of the spin. Nabil Jeffrey walks away, the Malaysian driver. And so the safety car out on track. Note to self next year, really must log how many safety cars we get over a season. There's a drive-through penalty now for Marcus Pommer for exceeding the pit lane speed limit. I tell you what, if somebody doesn't get a penalty,
I was going to say, everything is being thrown at this, isn't it?
There's another rainforest being felled somewhere nearby to allow for all the paperwork to be completed. Safety car on track. It will pick up the race leaders this time. Nabil Jeffrey goes and talks to George Russell. They're the two that have had their offs at the approach to the stadium. But what we haven't seen is how Nabil Jeffrey got there. Did he do it on his own, or was there an assist? We've got 9 3/4 minutes to go. It will be time.
Yes.
And is this the answer? It is. Jeffrey was in the pack. There may have been a bit of a nudge from behind from Andy Chang, who was running well earlier, but then he fell down by going wide at the Spitzkehrer and then gets involved in another incident. So, unfortunately, Nabil Jeffrey is out of the race. So what's that? Our third safety car period. And George Russell and Nabil Jeffrey leave the scene of the crimes.
The driver shuttle minibus is standing by to run them back to the paddock.
I wouldn't leave just yet. Safety car in this lap. Oh, good. Right, Felix Rosenqvist, having just built the advantage, of course, has had it taken away by this safety car period. And so our third safety car usage of the race, as cars have to be retrieved from gravel beds. Damage you can see there to Mikkel Jensen's wing end plate, a bit like Ryan Tvita picked up yesterday in the Carlin car. Lights are out, so we'll go racing this time.
Tvita was pulled in for that yesterday.
He was, but also you'd identified it, the whole wing assembly was loose. And Nicholas Pola is going to be reported to the stewards of the meeting for blocking in the pit lane.
Well, backing them up now, once again, is Felix Rosenqvist. So, I really fear for Alexander Albon with Giovinazzi right behind him. He's going to fall prey to Giovinazzi. Rosenqvist floors it now.
And Rosenqvist's car has got better as the race has worn on, hasn't it? The early pace Albon had has certainly been countered by what we saw from Rosenqvist before that last safety car period. So we go racing once again, but Giovinazzi is on a mission. Felix Rosenqvist then, looking for 13 race wins this year in the championship, comes over the timing line now. We're back racing. We start lap 15. We've got 7 3/4 minutes to go. And look at the gap he's pulled heading into turn 1. It's 0.8 of a second as we're back racing once again. And Marcus Pommer heads down the pit lane. Charles Leclerc has stayed out there as far as I can tell, but a long way down the order now. And we've got a yellow flag at turn 1. We've had another incident. Yellow flag withdrawn. So the field continues. I tell you what lie, Charles Leclerc has pitted while we had that safety car period. Apologies. So Charles Leclerc has made a pit stop, but he's down now in 25th position. So it is game over as far as his third place in the championship is concerned, having mid-season looked like he could be a candidate for the crown. Rosenqvist not getting away, mistake made there by Beretta up the escape road, so Jake Dennis buys another place out of all of that as the cars work their way down now towards turn 7 into the Mercedes arena.
Dennis up to P7 now.
Should be, maybe even better than that. This is what happened at turn 1 on the restart. Is that Chang or Lee getting it wrong? It is Andy Chang, the Macanese driver. So a rotation, and he was behind Peter Lee, but like Leclerc, like Boccolacci, runs wide onto the AstroTurf where there's a lack of traction and then a lack of orientation. Round he goes.
Well, you're right, you could have put that into the photocopy machine twice, couldn't you, for what we've seen?
Oh, and drama there as well as two get together. So bodywork flies. Now I've got a horrible feeling that that's going to be an interruption because there's debris on the road.
There is debris, yes.
His tyres pick up that. It is Santino Ferrucci, who was being investigated anyway, but that smashed not only the wing assembly but some of the floor as well. He's limping back. Rosenqvist goes through them. The advantage is 11/10 over Albon. Giovinazzi runs third. Fourth is Sims. Fifth is Callum Eilert. Then it is Gunter, then it is Dennis in 7th place, Jensen 8th, Beretta 9th, Tatiana Calderon into the top 10 now. But I'd be a bit concerned about that incident zone we've just seen with those chunks of bodywork lying across the track, and they're not that far from it, are they? It's coming out of this next corner.
Absolutely. So Felix Rosenqvist heads through that corner.
Safety car, sorry Dave, safety car again. So 4 4 safety cars. And although there, Tatiana Calderon goes in to Lazio Lorandi. That move should never have been made. The safety car, having been deployed, the boards and the flags would have been waved. And Tatiana Calderon, I'm afraid, will have a case to answer for that. A, it was a clumsy move, and B, it was while the safety car instructions were being given. No, no, no. Right, we've got 5 more minutes of this race to go. 5 more minutes of the season. And it's a shame that it's ending this way with so many interruptions.
It is a shame.
We've not really had as many pure racing laps as we would have liked. When we have had them, it's been very interesting to see the pace of Rosenqvist, then Albon, then Giovinazzi. Ferrucci is a retirement.
And in fairness, from that last restart, I predicted that Giovinazzi would be all over the back of Albon, but he wasn't.
No.
Albon was able to manage that. Well, there's the safety car waiting to pick them up for the 4th time of asking.
Yep. And this might even bring them to the end, because behind the safety car, you're looking at 2.5 minute laps. You can see the yellow flag waving just on the outside of the corner there. And yeah, clumsy move by Tatiana Calderon on that, and it should not have been made anyway, no. I'm afraid to say. There it is from another angle. Maybe there was a last-minute realisation that there was a yellow flag, and that's why it was half-hearted, because she tried to back out of it to give her the benefit of the doubt. But even so, there's still contact. Yellow flags are on the outside and the inside of that corner. It shouldn't really have been made, that move, sorry to say. So, 4 minutes remain. It might be that the safety car runs to the end. It might be that we get 1 racing lap out of this. Felix Rosenqvist leads the way, as he has done race long, and Tatiana Calderon is under investigation for causing a collision.
Well, as we look at some super slow-mo replays then, and just some of the debris, and that's from the Ferrucci car, isn't it?
Yes. A 10-second time penalty is being given to Tatiana Calderon. So not a drive-through, but 10 seconds added to the race time. And with everybody bunched up under the safety car, 10 seconds will be very significant indeed, because there'll be hardly any gaps. So if you apply 10 seconds to where Calderon is now, that's going to put her down into 21st place, and she's running 10th.
Right.
So 3 minutes of the season remain, and we have still 1 or 2 more bits to get out of the way. The race control team will be trying to do this as quickly as possible, or orchestrate this as quickly as possible, so they can get 1 racing lap out of it at the end, but I'm less confident now. A season that has had plenty of drama, plenty of talking points, and a number of drivers have proved their ability. Maybe we haven't had the standouts in the way that we had Ocon and Verstappen last year, but we've had some great racing, and we have had some impressive driving from the likes of Charles Leclerc and George Russell as the rookies, for example. Lance Stroll yesterday, another one who's been a winner in his maiden season in the championship. Marcus Pommer has had a win. Of course, he'd been a successful single-seater racer. He raced in national level Formula 3 before stepping up to this championship. Also, Max Günther, a winner, having moved up from the Formula ADAC Masters Championship, so another driver in his maiden season. And the race will be finished behind the safety car. The race director, I think, has... Well, yes, it's a 2-minute 11 lap, so it's going to be insufficient time anyway, but it also means there's no more chance of an incident, so I've phrased this as best I can, between anybody. So the race will be finished behind the safety car. We know the result. It's a 13th win for Felix Rosenqvist. It's 3rd in the championship for Jake Dennis. The FIA Formula 3 European Championship has seen the use of the safety car an awful lot, and it will see it for the last lap of the season.
Well, that's a shame that the race is being ended that way, but, you know, the clock has just... there's insufficient allowance, isn't there, in terms of time. You need to refuel the safety car, truthfully.
Yes, that's right. Yes, it's on the vapours. So the cars are on the last lap anyway. They will be brought to the line, and Felix Rosenqvist, let's not take anything away from the drive that he was able to put in, because he had to cope with pressure from behind. He had to cope, and there you can see the track sweeper getting as many of the bits out of the way as possible, and those bits of car are all over the road. So yeah, you can understand why the safety car was needed, and why, with less than a minute to go now, the race has to end on this lap. But Rosenqvist,
and I guess it's fitting,
done the job right.
Yes, he has done the job right, and whether we finish under the safety car or not, I think it's indisputable that he would have taken the win, and you know, it's good that he's finished the season, and what has been a supreme season for him, of course, to finish with another victory. But good drive from Alexander Albon, and you know, it was that scythe at the start, wasn't it, that impressed.
And had he been able to make that move earlier, given how many safety car periods we've had since, he might have been the man just having to do the defence for a lap or two here and there and could have been in the box seat. But the move never quite came despite his best efforts. But it's another second place for Alex Albon to round out the year. That will be a third, second position.
Can I throw in the P5 for Callum Ilott is very good as well.
It is. Seeing that he started race 1 at the very back of the grid. He's had a third as his best finish this year, but it's a good showing, you're quite right. Gunter 6th, first time out with Prema. And of course, Alexander Sims 4th won't score points by being in the guest class, so everybody moves up in terms of points being scored. Alessio Lorandi 13th after 2 pit stops.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It's a very random result, this. Actually, no, it's not 13th, it's 12th, because Tatiana Calderon's penalty has to be applied yet. And so the cars are going to be released up to the line, so it will be a proper finish for the checkered flag. So the safety car peels in, and Felix Rosenqvist wins the final round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. He wins the championship, he wins 13 races. He has certainly stamped his mark on the championship this year. Where does the career go from here? Does it stay in single-seaters? Does it move into sports car racing? Well, we'll find out next season. For now, Felix Rosenqvist can celebrate a victory. Alex Albon takes second. Antonio Giovinazzi third. With, out of that, Alex being the best rookie ahead of Callum Ilott and then Max Gunter. Well, Felix Rosenqvist, we've talked a lot about over the course of the weekend, the course of the season. A far better year last year. Massively frustrating. He went to Muka Motorsport. People anticipated, having been third and then second, that it would have been his year to win the championship, but it just did not come. And I think in the winter there was quite a lot of soul-searching as to whether Felix had lost it. He had to question his own ability, but Prema went after him. There was, of course, the initial thought that he'd taken his budget to the super team, but Felix and his close associates have said, no, Prema identified they wanted a real team leader and worked hard to make sure that the deal could come together financially. They went after Felix, and he has paid them back more than just by the championship, because yesterday he did that team game to help other Prema drivers take success.
And that was the point that I was going to make as we see the replay of him taking the checkered flag once again, that, you know, whatever confidence Prema Power Team had showed in Felix, he